Somebody just paid you $500,000 to drive their submarine. Not a toy submarine. Not a tourist attraction. A fully functional $50 million private submersible, owned by a man who also owns the yacht it's parked under. He is currently sitting directly behind you. He would like to see a shipwreck. You are now responsible for two things simultaneously: not dying and keeping a billionaire entertained while not dying. You are a private submarine pilot, one of the rarest, strangest, and most absurdly lucrative jobs in the entire maritime industry. A job that did not exist 20 years ago and now pays better than most surgeons. Today, that pilot is you. And somewhere above you, 800 feet of ocean is doing its absolute best to remind you exactly how much that paycheck is worth. Here's a fact that should immediately reframe how you think about extreme wealth. There are now over 150 private submarines owned by individuals around the world. And that number is growing by roughly 15 to 20 new builds every single year. These are not novelty items. A serious private submersible, the kind built by companies like Triton, U-Boat Works, or SE Imagine, costs anywhere from $2 million for an entry-level two-person model to over $50 million for a luxury vessel rated to dive past 3,000 feet, complete with leather interiors, panoramic acrylic domes, and in some cases, actual champagne refrigerators. Owning a submarine this complex creates an obvious problem. Somebody has to actually drive it. And piloting a submersible safely to depths of 1,000 feet or more in open ocean with no backup crew and a passenger whose net worth could buy a small country is not something you trust to just anyone. So an entire micro-industry has emerged around training and employing private submarine pilots. You work for one of a small number of specialized maritime staffing agencies that places pilots directly with yacht owners, charter companies, and ultra-high net worth families. Your current contract: a single client, one superyacht, one submersible, year-round availability. You are not just a pilot, you're part of a small, highly specialized service staff that travels with the yacht alongside. The captain, the chef, the dive instructor, and occasionally a marine biologist hired specifically to narrate what the owner is looking at. It is, by any reasonable definition, one of the strangest job descriptions in the modern economy. It's 10:15 a.m. somewhere in the Caribbean. You're off duty, reading, enjoying the fact that yesterday's dive went smoothly. Then, the radio crackles. The owner wants to see a specific shipwreck he read about: a merchant vessel that went down in the 1800s, sitting at approximately 820 feet. He wants to go today. He wants to bring two guests. He would like champagne available at depth. Here's the part of this job that civilians never expect. Champagne requests aside, you are now running a full pre-dive risk assessment in your head before you've even finished standing up. Depth of 820 feet is within the vessel's rated limit of 1,000 feet, but it's deep enough that this is not a casual dive. Visibility at that depth depends entirely on current conditions. Communication with the surface becomes increasingly limited the deeper you go. You radio back: confirmed dive prep beginning, estimated launch in 90 minutes. You treat it like what it actually is. The descent begins. At the surface, the water is brilliant turquoise. By 100 feet, it's shifted to deep blue. By 300 feet, the light is fading fast, what divers call the twilight zone, where the sun's influence becomes a memory rather than a presence. By 600 feet, there is no natural light whatsoever. Your exterior lights are now the only thing illuminating anything outside the vessel. One of your guests, visibly less casual now than they were at the dock, asks how deep you're actually going. You answer calmly: 820 feet. About 2.5 football fields straight down. The pressure at that depth is roughly 25 times what it is at the surface. At 750 feet, something changes in the cabin. The owner, a man who has flown private jets through storms, who has personally piloted his own helicopter in conditions that would terrify most professional pilots, goes quiet. Genuinely quiet. Something about absolute darkness at depth does this to almost everyone, regardless of how much wealth or bravado they normally carry. This is candidly part of why you're paid what you're paid, not just the technical skill of piloting the vessel. The ability to remain completely calm and authoritative while the people around you, people used to controlling every variable in their lives, experience genuine vulnerability for possibly the first time in years. At 820 feet, the wreck appears. Your exterior lights catch the hull first, still recognizably ship-shaped after nearly 200 years on the ocean floor. The cabin goes completely silent. Whatever your guests paid for this experience, this exact moment is what they were actually buying. 20 minutes into observing the wreck, a warning light activates. Secondary thruster, the lateral positioning system, has lost partial hydraulic pressure. Here's what this does not mean. It does not mean the vessel is in immediate danger. The primary ascent system is completely separate and unaffected. You have full vertical control. What it does mean, your ability to maneuver precisely around the wreck site is now significantly reduced, and the issue needs to be assessed before you do anything else. You do not announce this to your guests immediately. Not because you're hiding danger there isn't any yet, but because the protocol in this job is identical to the protocol in commercial aviation. Assess first, communicate clearly and calmly second. Never alarm passengers over a manageable technical issue. You run the diagnostic. The hydraulic loss is isolated to one thruster line, likely a seal issue rather than a catastrophic failure. You have three options. Continue the dive with reduced maneuverability, begin immediate ascent as a precaution, or attempt an isolated system reset. You choose the reset. It's the option that addresses the actual problem rather than just avoiding it. And your assessment is that the failure mode does not pose immediate risk to vertical ascent capability, your actual safety system. The reset takes 40 seconds. System restored. You log the incident for the post-dive maintenance report. You announce, casually, that you're going to reposition for a better angle on the wreck's bow. Nobody behind you knows that 30 seconds ago you were running through ascent protocols in your head. This is the actual job, not the piloting. The piloting is the easy part once you're qualified. The actual job is being the only person in the vessel who understands exactly what could go wrong, at every single moment, while never once letting that show. Let's talk about what this actually pays, because the structure of this compensation is genuinely unlike almost any other job on this channel. Entry-level private submersible pilots recently certified, typically working for charter companies operating tourist submersibles rather than private superyacht contracts, earn between $80,000 and $150,000 per year. Already a strong salary for a niche maritime skill. Pilots contracted directly to private yacht owners. The role you're in right now earn a base salary typically between $200,000 and $350,000 per year. This is for full-time, year-round availability, often including travel to wherever the yacht is currently located, anywhere in the world. Senior pilots working for the ultra-wealthy, particularly those rated for vessels diving beyond 1,000 feet, or those with additional certifications in deep wreck navigation and marine biology narration, can command $400,000 to $500,000 annually. Your $500,000 salary is functionally closer to $600,000 to $700,000 in total value. Once you account for the fact that you have almost zero living expenses for the entire year, the lifestyle cost is real and specific. You live where your employer's yacht is. Your schedule is entirely dictated by when the owner wants to dive, which can mean weeks of complete inactivity followed by being needed at 6 a.m. with 2 hours notice. But right now, today, you are one of fewer than 300 people on the planet who can do this. And that, more than the wreck, more than the depth, more than the champagne, is the actual rarest thing in the entire story.